Hi, friends, and welcome to this week's What's the Math Wednesday, where I give you a math topic, I explain it, and then give you practice problems. So, this week we're going to do factoring a trinomial when a equals 1. And I was inspired to pick this because this is exactly what I was doing in a session where I was tutoring yesterday. So, here we go. Typically, you'll find this in Algebra 1, and then it comes back in Algebra 2. And let's talk about what this means. So when you're factoring a trinomial when a equals 1, a trinomial is a three-term polynomial, and a equals 1 means that the number in front of your x squared is 1. So typically with these problems, they don't actually put the 1 in front. They'll just put like x squared plus 3x plus 7, something like that. So a is the coefficient of x squared, b is the coefficient of x, and c is the constant. If coefficient is a word you don't know, it just means it's the number in front of. So a is the number in front of x squared, b is the number in front of x, and c is the constant. And a constant value doesn't have a variable with it. What's cool about these problems is that when a equals 1, all you have to do is focus on the value of the constant. And what you're trying to do is think of two numbers that multiply to give you that constant value. But when you combine them, so like adding or subtracting, depending on the problem, give you the value for b. Now, the reason why I say add or subtract is because there's 4 different forms of these problems. So you have 2 when c is positive and 2 when c is negative. So let's talk about when c is positive. When c is positive, the 2 factors of c are going to be the same sign. So they're either both going to be positive or both going to be negative. That is the only way you can multiply 2 numbers and get a positive value, is either if they're both positive or if they're both negative. So when you have the format x squared plus bx plus c, you'll see that the only way to multiply to get a positive value and then to add them and get another positive value is that both of those factors have to be positive. So once you find the value where the 2 numbers multiply to c and add together to give you b, then your answer will be x plus whatever factor 1 is times x plus factor 2. Now, if you have x squared minus bx plus c, the only way that you multiply the 2 values to get a positive value, but combine them or add them to get a negative value, is if they're both negative. So in that case, your parentheses is going to look like x minus factor 1 times x minus factor 2. And I think this will make more sense to you when we do the examples. But again, when c is positive, the 2 factors will be the same sign. So it's good to look at the sign of your b value to know what that factor is. Because if it's plus bx, then both factors are going to be positive. And if it's minus bx, then both factors will be negative. Okay, now when c is negative, that's a whole different story, because in order for c to be negative, that means that one factor of c has to be positive and one factor of c has to be negative. So that means in order to get the b value, you're technically subtracting, because one value is positive and one value is negative. So in that case, you have to see what sign your b value is to know which factor is going to be the negative factor. So if you look at x squared plus bx minus c, in that case, the larger factor is going to be the positive factor and the smaller factor is going to be the negative. And that's because we know that when we subtract 2 values, the answer takes the sign of the larger number. I mean, and that's really why both of these work the way that they do. So just to give you an example, like if you do 5 minus 3, you're going to get positive 2. But if you do 3 minus 5, you're going to get negative 2 because 5 is the larger value. So when it's x squared plus bx minus c, in your answer, you're going to have x plus the larger factor times x minus the smaller factor. Conversely, if you have x squared minus bx minus c, it's going to be the opposite thought process. So you're going to have x minus the larger factor times x plus the smaller factor. So summing the C negative part up, right? The two factors, one will be positive, one will be negative. If your bx is a positive value, the larger factor is going to be positive. If your bx is a negative value, then the larger factor is going to be negative. So let's go do an example. Okay, so example 1 says x squared plus 8x plus 12. So our C is 12, which means that it's positive. So we know that both factors are going to be the same sign. And since the 8x is positive, both factors will be positive values. So if you think of factors of 12, you have like 1 and 12. But if you add those together, that doesn't add up to 8, that adds up to 13. So that doesn't help you. So if you go to the next pair of factors of 12, that would be 2 and 6. 2 plus 6 gives you 8, which works for us. So 2 times 6 we know gives you 12. 2 plus 6 gives you 8. So that is the answer for us. So our answer would be x plus 2 times x plus 6. Okay, moving on to example 2. So we have x squared minus 9x plus 18. So again, our C value, which is 18, is positive. So we know that either both factors are positive or both factors are negative. So our B is negative 9. So that means to us that both factors have to be negative in order to get to negative 9. Now, thinking about factors. So factors of 18, like negative 1 times negative 18 will give you positive 18. But when we add those together, that gives us negative 19, and we're looking for negative 9. So that doesn't work for us. Another pair of factors would be negative 2 and negative 9. Negative 2 times negative 9 is positive 18, but when I combine them, when I add them together, that'll give me negative 11. And again, that's not the value we're looking for. So then I move on to the next pair, and that would be negative 3 and negative 6. So negative 3 times negative 6 is positive 18, and then adding them, negative 3 plus negative 6 is negative 9, which is what we're looking for. So those are the factors that we're looking for. So we have the quantity x minus 3 times the quantity x minus 6 as our answer. Now, guys, as far as order of your parentheses, it doesn't matter as long as the signs in the parentheses are correct. So you could have put x minus 6 times x minus 3, and that's the same answer. It's the same. So the order of the parentheses doesn't matter, just in making sure that the signs in the parentheses are correct. Okay. Example 3. Example 3, we have x squared plus 3x minus 10. So we see in this case that C is negative because it's negative 10. So we know that with the factors of 10, one has to be positive and one has to be negative. And looking at our B value, which is positive 3, we know that the larger factor for 10 is the positive one. So if you think about factors of 10, we would have negative 1 times 10. That gives us negative 10. But when we combine them, that gives us 9. That doesn't help because that's not 3. Moving on to the next pair of factors, we have negative 2 and 5. So negative 2 times 5 is negative 10. And then combining them, negative 2 plus 5 is 3, which is what we're looking for. So our two factors are negative 2 and 5. And then our answer would be x plus 5 times x minus 2. And again, like I said before, the x plus 5 doesn't need to come first in the answer. You could have x minus 2 come first. What matters, though, is the signs in the parentheses must be with the correct numbers. So the 5 needs to be the x plus 5, and the 2 needs to have the x minus 2. All right, one more example for us. Okay, so last example. We have x squared minus 5x minus 24. So again, our C is negative. It's negative 24. We know that because that's negative, one factor is positive and one factor is negative. And if you look, because the middle term, our B is negative 5, the larger factor for the 24 has to be the negative one. So if you think about factors, 1 and negative 24 will multiply to negative 24. But when you combine them, they give you negative 23. So that doesn't work out for us. Moving on, we would have 2 and negative 12. when you multiply those together, that gives you negative 24. But when you combine them, it gives you negative 10. So that's not negative 5. So we move on. Our next pairing would be 3 and negative 8. If you do 3 times negative 8, that gives you negative 24. When you do 3 plus negative 8, that gives you negative 5, which is what we're looking for. So our answer for this problem is x minus 8 times x plus 3. Okay, guys, I hope that this was a good instruction for you. If you have any questions or you want me to further explain something, please let me know. So here is the you-do problems that you could try if you'd like to. So number 1 is x squared plus 8x minus 9. Number 2 is x squared minus 8x plus 16. Number 3 is x squared minus 8x minus 20. And number 4 is x squared plus 8x plus 15. So just a hint for you guys, make sure that the format that you're working with, you know what signs go with the factors and what you're looking for. Okay, guys, have a great day. Happy Wednesday. Bye.